really, I also have that with Maritza too. Maritza's in my in the flight club mastermind in Vegas that we attend. And when we talk, it's always like, you know, let's skip the BS and what's really going on. Um, so yeah, I think it's great. This today is going to be a very deep and philosophical mastermind. Um, because I think it's important. I think a lot of people are struggling with things. And I want to talk about the book The Artist's Way because I'm rereading it right now, and I was telling Anna about it because she's in her Eat, Pray, Love phase in her life.
You
And I
just told my secrets.
and I told her about the book, and she was like, "Oh, did you know that Eat, Pray, Love exists because of The Artist's Way?" And I was like, "Yeah, there you go. Of course it does." But The Artist's Way, if you guys have not read this book, it is Julia Cameron, who was a screenwriter, wrote this book. I started implementing the 3 pages a day around 2007. And I will say it's because of that book that a lot of the things that I'm doing in my life exist, because it really gave me permission to do the thing, right? The creative endeavor that I wanted to do without judgment and fear of, of doing any of that stuff. And so I wanted to bring it to light. One, I think everybody should read the book, so much so that I think I'm going to make it part of my client journey. That when somebody becomes a client journey with me, that they read The Artist's Way because it is so profound. And just the writing the 3 pages a day. I don't know if you guys are doing that or not, but like I wake up and I write 3 pages a day in this book, and it's like hieroglyphics. It's like bad. But I never go back to read it. And that's the thing too. It's like it isn't really about being structured and trying to write a screenplay. It's just brain vomit, right? Stream of consciousness. Like, hey guys, all right, I'm writing my 3 pages a day today and blah, 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 blah. But for me, it has been such a good meditative experience. I know some people can sit and meditate, and I'm working on that myself, where I'm just sitting in silence. And it's such a hard thing for me to do, which is why I need to do it. But when I'm writing, I connect with God. I connect with what's inside. I connect with the answers, right? And if you guys give yourselves the opportunity to write 3 pages a day, I think you're going to discover things about yourselves that you didn't even know were there. Because I think and as visionaries, we're going 120 miles an hour at all times, right? And when we slow down enough to go, hey, these answers are right here. I'll give you an example. Um, I was going I was going to the Flight Club Mastermind, and I was like, what is the intention here? Like, why am I going to this mastermind? Why am I going to Mardi Gras? Why am I going to Flow? Why am I going to these events? Right. And the intention was, well, I'm gonna close business, right? And I was like, to me, I was like, I don't want to go in with that intention, right? What I want to go in is how can I be present, completely present, like really be here when I'm doing a podcast? How can I just be right there, just being super present for that person, even though they're talking about personal injury for like the 40th damn time. And I'm like, I really don't care about it. But I care about you as a person, right? And if this is what you want to talk about, and if this is what lights you up, then like let me be here to like listen to you and just be fucking present. And I'm telling you guys, I'm going to Antarctica next month, right? To yeah, it's gonna be insane. So yeah, Carl, who's part of Flight Club, and then I saw him again at Flow. He does these once in a lifetime trips, and he's putting it together. on one of them, Deepak Chopra is going, and then on another one, Chelsea Handler and a bunch of these doctors that are like at the forefront of the psychedelic movement in the world, right? And so it's going to be an interesting trip. But I don't think if I would have slowed down and just have been present, I don't think that I would have seen the opportunities at Mardi Gras when I was there. I was like, you know what? You should go, Maritza. You should go to
I have a lot going on
I know,
right
I know you. I definitely do.
now. But no, it would be amazing. I'd love the info because, who knows? I might run away.
There you go. I was like, I was on the fence about it, but Carl was like, "Hey, man, you need to do this," and I was like, "All right, I'm sold." I mean, it's a once in a lifetime trip. When am I ever gonna go to Antarctica, right? So anyway, all that to say is that I think if we slow down and we start, and our intention is, how can I be present instead of what can I get? Right? And what am I trying to get from this thing instead of how can I be present and how can I just live in this life? And I'm glad Rufus just popped in because I definitely me and him and John are a part of this other mastermind called the Visionary Forum. And the Visionary Forum I really enjoy because it's more on the woo-woo end of things in the mastermind world. Like I know a lot of masterminds you go to and it's all business heavy and connections and networking. The Visionary Forum is more um, you've reached the pinnacle of success, right? Now what? Right? And it's more about connecting with people and just some more deeper level. And when I say woo woo, I was like, when I first got there, they're just talking about a lot of vibrations and frequencies and I was like, I don't know what the hell y'all are talking about. But I allowed myself to let go and fall in. And what an amazing experience. Some life-changing moments as a result of just kind of letting go, which is part of, and me and John, I was on this podcast today talking about, um, you know, pain and pain avoidance and how often, as Americans, we're so pain avoidant, right? Drive-throughs, microwaves, air conditioning, like we want it now, instant gratification, instant pot. How many instant whatevers is there, right? Like we want it now, we want it fast. And like and now AI is here and we're all trying to bypass the thing that makes life worth living, right? Which is the journey itself, right? We're all just trying to get to this point, like without doing the work. And I think it's because we're all trying to be pain avoidant. And I'm like, at this point, I'm trying to embrace the pain. And you guys can chime in with your thoughts on this. But I fell off a scooter in Atlanta at the Eight Figure Firm conference. And I was telling John, I was like, man, I'm at the top. I was gliding, I'm like, I'm getting invited to speak at the Eight Figure Firm Mastermind, and things are going well, and blah, 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 blah. And whoop, boom, like immediately, right? And a fall, and I'm like on the ground, on the concrete in Atlanta, looking up, right, at the skyscrapers, and people are just walking by. I'm the most unimportant person ever. You know what I mean? So it's like I'm on this like really amazing high to like this immediate fall, And in that moment, and I'm like, I go to the ER and I'm in this like massive amount of pain. And I was just like, I was grateful. If you guys can imagine, I was grateful for pain at that moment because I was like, how many times are when was the last time you guys broke a bone? Do you guys remember? Yeah. Been a while. Never. You've never been. So I was, nothing to me, nothing takes on value until you compare it to something else, right? And how can we experience the joy and the happiness and all of that if we don't really understand what pain is, right? And John, chime in on that leprosy, um, thing that you were talking about earlier.
Well, they comes from a book I read called Gift of Pain many, many years ago, and this guy was like studying um like different skin diseases, and like one of them is like what most people think of as like leprosy. And what they realized was, and this was many years ago when they're trying to figure out the disease, that um the disease actually was caused by not feeling pain. And so people would become very like deformed and they would look like horrific, but it wasn't because like the disease was attacking like their face or like deforming their bodies or their appendages. It was because they couldn't feel pain. So what would happen is they would like break their foot, for example. They would walk around on a broken foot or broken like leg, and they wouldn't feel the pain. Like normally you'd feel a lot of pain and you wouldn't walk on your leg. But they didn't have that signal to their brain. And similarly, there were some really like crazy stories of someone be asleep and like a rat would be chewing on their toe and they wouldn't even know. And they would just wake up with like their toe down to the bone. And similarly, like in like they would get deformed faces and things. And it was all because their body didn't feel pain. And so like the whole book was about that pain. We always often say it's like a bad thing, but the whole premise of the book was like, well, maybe it's not bad. Maybe it's like this incredible gift that we have. And just reframing it, right? From like both a scientific and even like a spiritual point of view, right? Like when we go through pain, it's not just like this, hey, this horrible thing is happening to us. One of the things Armando and I were talking about is sometimes we're most receptive to help and hearing and listening and changing if we're going through something painful.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's well, you mentioned the visionary form. I'll kind of add it's I feel sometimes it's kind of like visionaries anonymous, right? We're like, yeah, I'm a visionary, yeah, and whatever. I'm broken, I'm a mess, but it's like, but we're so good at being leaders of our companies at associating pain with weakness. So we can't come out and just let everybody know they're like, hey, I'm the boss, I'm the leader, follow me, but I have no idea what the hell I'm doing. I'm scared shitless, or I'm trying to figure all this out as I go. You need to put up that front of, hey, I got my shit together, I got it going on, and I have a clear vision. Let's follow me into the depths of whatever. And I think, gosh, having a place where you can go where other people are like, nah, hey man, we're just as broken and damaged as you are, in allowing that, lack of a better term, safe space to kind of open up and be vulnerable with each other, saying, shit, I have been really avoiding dealing with some shit that I got to really deal with because ultimately these things are really holding me back. And you can't just go to just any other mastermind. Think about any mastermind you've ever been to. You're sizing everybody up. Do I deserve to be here? I hope I don't say something too stupid. They'll kick me out of here. I'm qualified to be here. So it's we're all wearing that mask of we got our shit together. But when you can go to a place like that and people are like, nah, man, dude, the more broken you are, the more we want to help you and figure it out. So it's really kind of cool. That's what I say. It's kind of the dark side of being a visionary, Armando. Sometimes it's like there is a dark side, and I think being a leader in your company can, I say lonely. It's I don't know, maybe I got to find a better word for it because I'm surrounded by people I love and work with people that do meaningful work. So I'm anything but alone, but lonely in the sense of like, I don't get to really talk about certain things with my wife, with my employees, with other certain friends, because we all kind of play a certain role in a lot of those situations. And to where you can kind of go into another group and be like, take off those masks. It's extremely liberating, and that's the hard work that has to get done sometimes. So anyway.
Yeah. Go ahead, Maritza.
I was just gonna make a recommendation for you guys for in that book. I mean, my whole job is being present all day, right? Like I have to be present for and hold space for my clients. But there's a book that I read years ago. It's called The Presence Process. And I'm happy to share it with you, Armando, and you can share it with everyone in the group.
Yeah.
But it talks about, because I always say, like, lean into the discomfort, right? Face it. I use a saying, face it, embrace it, trace it, replace it. So
What is
that
it?
as you're leaning up,
Wait, slow
the
that
presence
down.
Yeah, the presence process
Okay.
is the book. And I have a whole like app for it. And then what I tell my clients is like, you have to face it, embrace it, trace it, replace it, because some of your greatest
Can you do that one more? Face it,
face it, embrace it,
embrace it.
trace it, replace it.
What does trace it mean?
Where is it coming from? Like energetically, like the discomfort. So, for instance, like I have an experience that I'm going through in my life right now, and it's every person's probably worst nightmare, right? And for me, I say, well, why am I so upset about this? Like, obviously, like the normal things that are going on, but it's because of lack of control. I have no control over the situation. I can't stop it. And I want to be able to make it better, but I'm not able to do that, regardless of how badly I want to. Like, if you've ever dealt with like a loved one dealing with an illness or you've been going through something. And so for me, I say, okay, well, this is my obstacle to peace because in this situation, my peace is outside of me. And if my peace is outside of me, I will never have peace inside of me. So that's what we have to realize is what is my obstacle of peace? Because if peace is always outlying, then I'm never going to have peace within.
Wow,
So that was just a recommendation for a book that's pretty good. And I'm happy to share the app with you after.
that's great. Yeah, the presence process. Um, I love that. Me and John were talking about, authenticity and how do we become authentic? And I think this is just my opinion, right? From just doing this kind of work of being, of being on camera and putting myself out there. I think that when you're going through the thing, right, and you don't rob yourself of pain and you don't rob yourself of the actual journey, that the authenticity comes from the discovery of who you really are in times of crisis and struggle. And, and I'll bring it back to content and to clients, all right? Because this is why I created this group in the first place and why I think it's so important to be creating content on a regular basis and doing podcasts and things like that. Yes, you're going to get more business. Yes, you're going to connect. Yes, you're going to do all of that. But I also think that as I was talking to John on his podcast, right, and I was getting to speak my truth, part of me getting my voice out there and being able to speak my truth reinforces the message back to myself, right? Like I'm almost teaching myself back the things that I already know. And because he gave me that space in which to do that, it was I was able to lean into who I am authentically, be vulnerable and go, oh, wow, there's things inside me that I didn't even realize, which is why I'm saying in this group, y'all should invite each other on each other's podcast. One, so that you guys can podcast host, but also so that you guys can practice and have the stage time to be able to speak your truth, right? And having a platform to build that confidence because when you're on a podcast, I mean you're on stage essentially. And so the more stage time you get, the more confidence you're gonna have, right? I talk about my journey as a lead singer on Bourbon Street, right? Like when I first started, I could sing, but I was super scared, right? And I had my iPad with all the lyrics, and I was just staring at the iPad. I wasn't really engaged with the audience, but because I did that, 5 days a week, it took me no time, 2 weeks in, that, all right, now I know the lyrics and I can look at the audience and I'm getting more creative and my confidence is growing, and we had a conversation about Rufus, right? And where he is now with his confidence, as a result of putting himself out there and what the possibilities are, so if you guys are leaning into who you are authentically and trying to find yourself, I really believe that creating content and putting it out there and finding more platforms to speak on will create this authenticity and you'll find these voices inside you as a result of more stage time, which is why I preach that all the time for you guys to, be creating content and doing more podcasts. Yes. Cool. Does anybody have any epiphanies, thoughts, ahas that maybe arose just now?
I would comment to that pain conversation. How often is pain and humility connected, right? like the whole idea of like you talked about being a leader of or organization or my company or whatever. I'm ego based and not ability based at all, and therefore I cannot own up to the fact that I don't know what I'm doing. Like Ruben was talking about, right? I just can't go there. And then you know it comes down to like if I'm do I pull that band-aid off one pulled hair at a time, or do I just yank the whole thing off at one time? And I think we tried, like you said, we avoid pain and we turn it into like some kind of huge mountain. And when we get close to it and look at it, it's probably just a molehill, if even that. It takes 30 years to get beyond it. But we spend 10 years trying to, or I spend 10 years trying to, avoid it, right? So it's a fish where we end up human beings so often.
Yeah. You were
Yeah,
bringing up on some of the points, but yes, definitely heard. Go ahead, Stephen.
yeah, Armando, how are you? How you guys doing? Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I was listening to a message the other day, and people love to being around happy people, and it reminds me back in the days when I worked in Verizon, I could be having a terrible day, but every time I was helping a client, a customer, I was always smiling, no matter if the war was going down through hell for me. I never showed that up in the counter. So I just wanted to share that. So I mean, it was just a thing, that I just thought about it right now. And sometimes we could be having through things through the day, but the thing is, never show those emotions. Just always try to lead with a smile because people like to be around happy people.
Yeah,
Yeah, just just that.
makes sense.
Yeah.
I'm glad Margarita's here because we were also having a conversation. And Margarita, we've been talking about authenticity and pain, and it's been a different kind of mastermind today. But I think it's necessary. And you can chime in with that the Illusion of Money book because I thought that was a good I thought that was a good little lesson there on sometimes as you embrace the pain, and she was saying that the book was talking about how you view it and how you view uncertainty. So you can pop in and explain so I'm not butchering it.
Sure, I'd be happy to share. I don't want to take up too much time, but thank you all for letting me join a little late. So I was sharing an experience of applying the lessons from Kyle Cease's book, The Illusion of Money, where I was going through a really hard time, and this was like many years ago. And he said that what if we put energy of joy into uncertainty? Like it doesn't always have to be scary, right? And we all know what it's like to have a fun surprise. And so he recommended the phrase, I have no idea how, fill in the blank with whatever your problem is. And I love that. And so I was going through a really hard time. Actually, I'll share whatever. I hadn't paid my car in like 3 months. It was bad. And I was like, I have no idea how I'm going to make my car payment. And I love that. And then like I kept saying it. And then after a while, like I kind of had fun with it. And like 3 seconds later, a friend called me and was like, "Hey, what are you doing?" And I'm like, "Oh, just watching my life fall apart, whatever." And she's like, "What's going on?" And I was like, "I have no idea how I'm going to pay my car payment." And I love that. And she's like, "How much is your car payment?" And I told her how much it was. And she's like, "All right, I Zelled you." And I was like, like, and that was such a cool moment that I think I tapped into just by having fun with the idea of uncertainty and that it doesn't always have to be this scary thing. And I got it from that book. And Kyle Cease talks a lot also about like sitting with the pain and putting an intention of, okay, I'm acknowledging the pain, I'm sitting with it, and I'm acknowledging that right now I'm processing it. So anyway, yeah,
Yeah.
that was deep. I feel naked. I can't believe I shared that with you all.
No, I
Um,
appreciate that. I
yeah.
think you know what I also found um, when I went to Flight Club this past go round, and everybody, I don't know if everybody knows, but some people know that I'm going through, a separation, and and I was vulnerable for the first time, in this group. And the outpouring of support was awesome. It was incredible. And like I connected with people on a whole nother level because I had the bravery to be vulnerable and people resonated with that. And that's something that you guys, think about that too when you're like, putting out content on social media. I don't think you need to go into detail about, everything that's going on with you, but some vulnerability in your posts and allowing people to see that you're a real human being can help, you know, can help people connect with you more and resonate with you more, and know that not everything in your life is perfect, right? Because it's not. You know what I mean? And when you have the courage to be vulnerable, I feel there's more opportunity to connect with people and who knows what happens, right? Like people start to connect with you on in a different way and just it's just been it can be a game changer. You never know what those relationships will bring once you take the mask off, you know. So part of that, part of today's topic is, is not being afraid of pain. And John was talking about this too. I love the what was the phrasing? The not being afraid of to have the bib on.
Yeah, put on the white belt and don't be afraid to wear a bib.
Yeah, because I think a lot of times when we're first starting to do something, right? Like we're like, oh, we're gonna start a podcast, or oh, we're gonna start putting out content on social media. Oh, we're gonna do that, right? And I think we all want to be running, right? Once again, we're talking about, oh, we're trying to get to the result without doing the work, right? And like, you guys have kids? How many people have kids here? Most people,
I
yeah.
do.
Great. Could you imagine if your 1.5-year-old is learning how to walk and you're like, the fuck, dude? Come on, get it together. Are you kidding me right now? Like, you trying to walk, bro? You know what I mean? Like, but we do that. We do that to ourselves,
Yeah,
right? Like we attack ourselves at that level before we even
yeah, that's
start.
right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And like, how often are we doing that? How often are we like just shutting it down way before it exists? Which is why I'm telling you guys, The Artist's Way. You have to read this book. It is an amazing book because it talks about you have to make it exist, right? You got to make it exist first. Why are you bringing in the editor? Why are you bringing in this critic on something that doesn't even exist yet? Right? And you're trying to edit and you're trying to be you're trying to be great. Clients when they start with us, they're always like, Armando, can you give me some critique on my podcast? And I'm like, no, no, I won't. Because you are number one, you're doing it. And number two, like if I start critiquing you, you're gonna stop, right? You're gonna get too heady, you're gonna overthink and all that. And I'm like, you don't need to worry about it. And any of that stuff. You just need to keep going, right? And so I would urge you guys that if you're in the beginning stages of content creation, podcasting, the whole nine, is that you embrace this level of white belt that John was talking about, right? Talk about that story because I thought it was powerful too, the judo.
What's white belt? Is that like a metaphor
The
for like
judo,
karate?
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
I mean, so I love martial arts. Probably every metaphor for me is like a martial arts, analogy. But like I read a book many, many years ago. I think it was Mastery by George Leonard, I think, and I might be I might be saying the wrong author, but he tells a story about how the founder of judo, Jigoro Kano, I think is his name, when he was like in the last days of his life, he asked to be buried in his white belt because like this is guy's like a master judo, martial artist, the founder of judo, and he said, "Hey, bury me in my white belt." And they said, "Well, why?" And basically he explained that, "Hey, death is a new beginning. Like I've never been this way, and I'm not afraid to go into this new part of life as a beginner." And I just thought it was really beautiful. Like, don't be like, that's where we're all afraid of. You walk in, and I've been in the first day of class, you're wearing a white belt, so everybody knows you're a beginner, right? It's like you don't know anything. And I think sometimes we're afraid to go into situations and be the beginner, like put on the white belt. So I think like metaphorically and just, even spiritually, right? Like it's okay you go into a new situation or whatever, just put on the white belt. Like just say like, "Hey, I'm a beginner." And then if you see that, then everyone knows like, okay, we can't, kick this person very hard, or we can't punch this person for real, or even internally, you don't beat yourself up when you're not as good as the people around you because like this person's green belt, brown belt, black belt, 5 degrees, red belt, whatever, right? So just the idea in my mind is I always say, and we say as a team, like put on the white belt. It's okay. You know, and then I rephrase it to don't be afraid to wear the bib to the black tie party. Cause like that's what the same thing is like everyone's in tuxes and you just got a bib on and you're like, okay, I can't even use silverware, but whatever.
Yeah.
So kind of around like don't be afraid to wear too many hats. I guess that would be another thing to yeah.
What's that?
Kind of like I love what John said. I interpreted that kind of like don't be afraid to wear too many hats when you have to.
Yeah, I think if we're gonna bring it into a business sense, I think it's more about, if you're starting a new project or starting something new and you're unsure about it and you're, in the beginning phases, that you should still do it. Just because you're a beginner doesn't mean that you should not do it, right? Like it's the process of getting started and being okay with sucking at it at the very beginning and going, all right, I'm just gonna kind of go through it, and without fear and judgment, because you're gonna be scared and you don't know what the future holds anyway. So I would be careful with wearing a bunch of hats in your business. I don't recommend that at all. I do not recommend wearing a bunch of hats in your business. I recommend collaboration. And good point here. Um, I want to talk about the Flow Mastermind that I'm a part of because joint ventures are super powerful. And I started creating a couple of joint ventures with some of the people in the Flow Mastermind. So that if you guys are thinking, and I know this is sort of off track and off topic, but I think it's topic for this group. But, part of why we're doing awesome, the presence process. Part of why we're doing the podcast is not just to create content and not to necessarily find people that want our product, which I mean it happens too. But I'm always thinking about, okay, who are the people that I really want to meet that if I met this person could change my entire business. And so when you guys are thinking about when you guys are doing your thing and whatever it is that you want to connect on and you want to create some joint venture partnerships where it's true joint venture, not like, oh, I'm going to refer you out and you're going to refer me out. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about how can we truly form a joint venture together where we're both benefiting from it, because we're embedded in that partnership together. For instance, I'm working with a guy, Nick Morgan, who has an AI software where he can do cold outreach and I'll introduce you guys if you guys want to meet him because it's really good. But he did a talk at the Flight Club Mastermind on email deliverability, and I don't know if you guys are just focused on emails as a means to get in touch with prospects or clients, but if that is your entire means, you're going to have a rude awakening here in the next year in 2026 because email deliverability is going to be harder and harder because of all of the filters that and blocks and things that they're putting on. So just because it's telling you that it's having a high open rate, that doesn't mean it's having a high open rate. And he can give you all of the technical, behind the scenes stuff, and explain it to you on that level. But all to say is that email deliverability is going down, and that if you don't have an omni approach to following up, a lot of your correspondence is probably being lost, right? So we're working together on creating like client journey for attorneys, where the clients are getting followed up with in text, WhatsApp, LinkedIn, email, Instagram, Facebook, like in an omni approach, so that you know that the client or the prospect is getting that message, which I think is really exciting. And he's using his process in which to do it. So, but all that to say is that me and him, we met at Flight Club, then we're at Flow together, and we're creating a joint venture where together, we can collaborate and really, 5x, 10x this thing. So if you guys are, doing your podcast and you're going, all right, how do I connect with that one person that we can create a joint venture together? And they really need what I do. I really need what they do. And we can create something, that's super powerful, a collaboration. Does that make sense? So for instance, like me and Margarita are working on a joint venture together, with sort of the sales approach and how we're going to be moving, more attorneys into her ecosystem and figuring out a good collaboration on that. So because we're both in
Armando's helping me help them despite themselves.
yes. And then me and Kevin Daisy, obviously, right? Like we've got a joint venture going on that Lottie Gras. I think I told you guys we did 50 podcasts in 1.5 days, 2.5 days, and it was insane. But like opened up a bunch of conversations. Everybody knew who we were at the conference. They were like, "Oh yeah, the podcast guys. Oh yeah, the podcast guys." Right? So being known is super important, right? And so now we're like, all right, well, it went off really, really well. Now we're going to go to NTL and some other law conferences and be able to do this in particular. So I want you guys to think about who it is that you guys want to meet and who could change the game for you. Who's an A player out there that already has the people. Uh, Another example of how powerful this podcast strategy is. Paul Faust, who was on the podcast, we've become friends. He's been on Life on Bourbon. He recommends a bunch of people to us. John Glon, who's our Bloom Growth coach, is doing a podcast in Detroit right now, today and tomorrow. And I texted Paul and I was like, "Hey, Paul, do you know anybody in the Detroit area that I could bring onto the podcast?" And oh yeah, he was like, "Oh, you should talk to Mike Morris from Fireproof." And if you guys don't know who that is, runs one of the top masterminds in the country for attorneys, and is now going to be on John Glon's podcast. And just got an email today from Gary, who's shooting the podcast, that said Mike Morris wants to hire us to help them with their mastermind and with content. Right?
That's awesome. That's awesome,
That's
man.
huge,
I got
man.
a few more lawyers for you.
Great.
I got a few more lawyers for you. I can send you your way.
Sounds good.
And I gotta invite Rufus to a podcast
You
too.
should.
And actually was talking to the host, and he said he would love to have him. So I let him know more about it later on.
Okay. But but like think about I want you to think about the Mike Morrises in your community, the Lewis Scotts, the people that already have hundreds of people, if not thousands of people in their organization. Conference organizers, coaches and consultants. These people already have your your avatars. And if they trust you and you guys can create a nice relationship, getting referrals from these people is going to be super easy, right? And it's just building relationships. And I'm working with Nick on this, and I'll give you guys, I'll send you guys our strategy on what we've been doing. But if you guys know me, you guys already know that like I use the 5 love languages to connect with people, right? Words of affirmation, quality time, acts of service, gift giving, and you gotta be careful with touch. Um, you just gotta be careful. It's 2025. You know what I mean? So, but
I want to follow a complaint.
yeah, you don't want HR rolling in. But how do we stay in touch with our referral partners, right? Like with Lewis and Ken Hardison and Bob Simon and Kevin and all these people that and Margarita, like all these people that I respect that have, that have clout in the industry. How do I stay in touch with them so that I am giving to them and not taking, right? How am I creating referral partnerships with them that last? I was talking to my couple of consulting clients from San Diego, and I want to tell this story real quick because it's so powerful. Jeremiah, who and Rajay knows because Rajay is working with them, and I told the story before. He was making, I think, $1,500 a month and living in his stepdad's closet, right? And now he's making over 150K in monthly recurring revenue, right? With Brandon. And so what happens is it because of relationships and because you can turn a faucet on with a referral partner that never stops. If you do ads, well, you got to turn the ads on, you turn them off, they stop. But with a referral partner and somebody that you can do business with on a regular basis and that you want to do business with, right? Like I like talking to Kevin. I like talking to Margarita. I like talking to John and Maritza, right? Like so it's not hard for me to have a relationship with these people because I like talking to them, right? So you can find those people pretty easily that understand you, that get you, that are part of your tribe, and that's how we're using the podcast too. It's a connection mechanism. It's an easy way to connect with the people that you want to connect with, that have the same thought process and if you can get some business out of it too, that's bonus. It's what we like call langyap here in Louisiana, which is just something extra. It's what langyap is.
How do you pronounce it?
Langyap. It's spelled Lagniappe. Langyap. But that's just here in Louisiana, it's just something extra. All right. So anybody you guys want to meet, have on the podcast? You guys looking to do something? Is there a sticking point? Anyone? And be vulnerable. It's all good.
I was just on a Beezer's podcast yesterday. He did a good job.
Yeah, I'm going to be on his podcast Wednesday.
I have a sticking point. So, and I think you and I have talked about this. I have two just completely different businesses. So I'm always kind of asking myself, like, when I do a podcast, like, which business should I be talking about? Is it both of them? Is it one of them? Because they're so different. And I don't want to confuse the audience, so to speak.
Mhm. I
What
mean, if
what
you,
are the what are the businesses?
Yeah, so I have a wellness coaching business where I do group coaching and one-on-one coaching. And then I also have a business where I do substance abuse evaluations for pretrial services.
Okay.
So
Do they
very
have
different.
similar avatars at all
Absolutely not.
or
No, no,
crossover?
no. No, so my clients who are coming in for my evaluations are usually just got a DUI or a narcotics charge. And
Mhm.
then my clients who are coming in for the coaching are usually just wanting to like going through like transition, whether it be like a divorce or a new job or empty nesting or just trying to like improve their life. They've like their life is good and they feel good, but they want to like kind of reach that next level of wellness and um, happiness.
do you want to do that more?
Yeah,
What's
I
lighting you?
love that. I mean, the other part, the evaluations are my bread and butter, but the group coaching stuff is what I really like, and I do retreats for that like 3 times a year.
I would focus on that.
Focus on that.
Yeah.
That's my thought.
But you
As
can
far as who
still,
you're going to reach.
yeah, but you can still mix in the other, I'm gonna call it interest, like an interest, because then that adds to your person, like your persona that you're creating, or that you're reflecting out. And I think it makes you more like well-rounded, like, like you're this whole like complete person. And I think people like that.
Okay. Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Is the avatar in your um for the retreats? What's the avatar? Women, men, couple?
You're like one of my perfect avatars. So like think of people that are, I would say early 40s, late 30s to like in their mid 50s who are, just they're already into all this stuff. Like maybe they've gone to therapy or they've gone had a coach, but they're just looking for a new adventure, how to up level their lives. Like, and women and men.
So this is what I would do if I was you. It's just my opinion. Um, if you're going to use the podcast strategy, which I think you should, it's an easy way to do it. If you can niche down to begin with, I know you can service a lot of people, but if you could be like, hey, I am the health and wellness coach for IT companies, or I'm health and wellness coach for home services or roofers or whatever, right? Like if you have like a niche.
Yeah, like I have my whole avatar like built out that's very specific.
Yeah.
Like she has a name and she has a job and she has, you know, all of that.
Yeah. But I would more, the avatar is great,
Hmm.
right? To know who you want to work with. For me, it's where are those people hanging out and who can I invite? Like if you tell me you want to reach plumbers, then what I would do is go, hey, where all of the plumbing podcasts, where are all of the plumbing conferences, where are all of the plumbing Facebook groups and LinkedIn groups, right? And then I would choose all of the people, all of the influencers in that space, people that have YouTube channels, coaches and consultants, conference organizers, people that are already at the top, invite those people to the podcast, create relationships, and then they can start sending out your offer to their people, right? Because it'll be a lot
Awesome.
easier. That would like jet fuel that growth, right? But if you're talking about a bunch of people,
Right.
it's kind of hard to target where those people are hanging out.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yep.
Well, and then based on the interest that you described, they're probably going to like conferences. So I would probably do some research, keywords for like, David Goggins, that kind of stuff. So
Yeah, are they entrepreneurs or are they executives?
Yeah.
I
Awesome.
would say they're probably a mix, right? Like
Yeah,
as far as
mix.
career-wise, that's why it's tricky to find them in a vertical, like that. But I think if you focus on looking at consumption of like content that is aligned with that mindset that you're looking for, that's where you're going to find a easier way to get in there.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.
But there's like, say if they're entrepreneurs, like there's a group called Entrepreneurs Organization. It's a international group, and then they have like a whole speaker like series. You can go to groups all around the country and speak at. So you can find definitely groups of business owners for sure.
What
Awesome.
is your
So
objective for your podcast? What are you trying to achieve with it?
So I haven't started a podcast yet. That's why I was just kind of looking at like what to focus on. But obviously, if I were to start a podcast, it would be to, have people be able to more readily consume my content and then hopefully come to the retreats or sign up for coaching.
Do you have give me a couple of people that are doing that right now with you?
Oh, so I stopped. So when I had that thing with my business partner, I have not, I'm relaunching everything right now because I had to recreate everything that I had to make sure I didn't get into a situation.
Gotcha. Okay. Um, maybe we can talk offline and
Yeah.
dial that in because I think it'd be really easy um to find those people. I'm really in the mode of finding a vertical. I think that's easy pickings, right? Like if it's too broad, like if it's a Tony Robbins thing, Tony Robbins talk, but Tony Robbins can do that because Tony Robbins is known, right? And so he can talk to a bunch of different verticals. Gary Vaynerchuk, Alex Hormozy, like they've surpassed the vertical, right? But if you're first starting something new and you're wanting to like really get in there, to me, finding that vertical and just being that person to that group of people first and build, and I mean shit, you can go, 3, 4, 5 miles deep within that vertical before you even max it out. You know what I mean?
Right.
So that would be, an easier way for me to find those folks is, okay, what do they do? Where are they going to conferences at? Do they have money? Like you could do a whole thing with financial advisors, right? And Rufus could, kind of guide you in that. But, these financial advisors are doing a bunch of different conferences, the Exit Planning Institute, business brokers, people like that, estate planning attorneys. And so you can, once you find the vertical, you can just go, 2 miles deep and build it very quickly.
Awesome. Thank you.
Sorry, I'm just rejoining the conversation, but talking niches, one thing I find helpful, I'm assuming the target client, your target customer, whoever you're working with, you already have some of those already. Um, if you want to duplicate them, I think the best resource is to go to them and say, where do you spend your time professionally? What are the things that you're involved in? What do you read? What do you watch? Who do you listen to? That kind of stuff. And then you can get to a point where you're saying, if you were me and I was trying to do this, what would you suggest? So a couple things come out of that. First of all, you get the insight from their point of view of where they spend their time. But the other part is they'll champion it for you in most cases. First, they're very flattered that you even asked their opinion and advice on something professionally for your business. But I think the example I got was someone that was like trying to get in the niche of airline pilots. And he asked his client, says, if I was, if you were me and I wanted to get in front of more airline pilots, what would you do? He says, oh, well, I would definitely write for this periodical that comes out for airline, but we all read it. And it says, and you can sponsor an ad there. And actually, I tell you what, I'll introduce you to the person that can put you there. And it just blew up the niche, but he would have never gotten there unless he had someone champion and usher that opportunity. And so that's kind of my only other thing you may want to throw on your radar.
Thank you.
Yeah, Rufus, you bring up the good point, right? Like, I've got several champions, right? And all were a result of bringing them to my podcast and connecting with them first and foremost, right? So if you guys are looking for champions, bringing them on a podcast and interviewing them and giving them a platform to talk, and then, getting information from them and staying in touch with them. And, you can find champions all day.
Yeah, I'd say the most proud I am of Armando was, when we first really started talking, not just about the podcast, but you got to understand, I've known Armando for a long time. And how many different jobs you've had? You've told me before.
75.
75 different jobs. So the thing about Armando is he's very creative, he's very skilled, and he can apply that to so many things. And it was the conversation is like, Armando, you can have anything you want. You just can't have everything you want. And we started really saying, okay, who do you like working with? And we started really talking a lot about the attorneys. I'm like, okay, well, you just developed in this niche at the time. I'm like, okay, you're in business to make money, right? Okay, so you have this over here. I think at one point you were a comic book or a novel, graphic, whatever, graphic novel author, actor coach, the podcast thing, the videographer. You had a lot of different hats, and I'm like, which one you want to build a company around? I says, and even when you started doing Life on Bourbon, I started cringing a little bit. I'm like, oh, okay, I can't neuter him. He has to have a creative outlet, but that's fine. It was a passion project, and hopefully it turns out to be great. But I love that you went all in and just identified, okay, I'm going to go after these lawyers. They spend a lot of money on marketing, and it's a great niche, and I'm going to take a relatively uninteresting profession and make it interesting for them. And that's a really great value proposition. And I think it's really, and I've seen where your business was and where it is now, and it's really grown because you just got laser focused on who you were trying to be a meaningful something to versus a really not a big deal to a lot of people.
Yeah. So. Appreciate that. Appreciate that. Well, we are out of time. I really do appreciate you guys being here. I hope you guys get value from it. I try to be a I try to be a light. I try to use my zone of genius, the galvanizing of, the working genius, which it just comes naturally to me. I really love doing this. Because once again, I also think that me expressing myself to you guys and being vulnerable and speaking my truth helps reinforce that message to myself on why I need to be doing those same things, and how we're growing, and can I be more vulnerable, and having the courage to do that, because it's hard for me, right? It's hard for me to be vulnerable, and but I think it's necessary. It's the only way, and Abizer can talk about that too. It's the only way to play the bigger game, which is the title of his podcast. So if you guys want to get on more podcasts, John's got a podcast, Kevin's got a podcast, Margarita's got a podcast, Rufus has got a podcast, I've got a podcast, Jesse's got a podcast. So and Rajay is about to have a podcast. So if you guys want more podcast opportunities to speak your truth, then reach out to the people in this group and get scheduled.
Yeah, I'd be open to anybody who wants to, who hasn't been on yet. Actually, Rufus, it's been a while since you've been on. If you want to come back on, but anybody else who wants to join as well, that would be great to have you guys on.
Yes. Cool beans, guys. If you guys need me, you guys know where